Alrighty, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Nate, and welcome back to another weather forecast discussion, this time for March 30th, 2023. Now, we are one day out from our big, significant, severe weather setup that is going to move on through the majority of the central United States, heading off into the Ohio River Valley. If you guys want more information for that, please be sure to pay attention. We will have a live stream tomorrow that will be covering all of this in depth, all sorts of radar analysis. We'll have all sorts of cameras, and there's a good chance that we could potentially have a chaser or two in the field. So watch out for that. Keep notifications on if you want more information. Other than that, if you're new to the channel, please be sure to like the video down below and subscribe if you are new. But before we talk about tomorrow, let's talk about the rest of tonight. We have two areas of severe weather that is possible here tonight. So 1 out of 5 in the severe weather scale. Not really too much in my honest opinion, just some elevated showers and thunderstorms across the board. Now, as for tomorrow, not too much has changed besides the fact that we have two areas of 4 out of 5 on the severe weather scale that has been issued. One up in the Midwest, the other one down in the Tennessee Valley heading off into the eastern Ozarks, and two distinct areas of severe weather that is possible here tomorrow. So very expansive. And then the other thing about it is, speaking of expansiveness, I mean, we still have this massive 3 out of 5 in the severe weather scale around that. And even the 2 out of 5 on the outside of it in the yellow is pretty expansive as well. So the big thing here is that if you live in the yellow, if you live in the orange, or if you live in the reds, you probably should watch out for severe weather tomorrow extensively, all right? Have a plan of action just on the off chance that some significant severe weather or tornadic weather is possible within your area, or if it is imminent, all right? You want to make sure that you are prepared ahead of time, and that way, if stuff does go wrong, you may be able to fall back onto some form of contingency plan that you may have. Now, we do have two areas of 15% tornado risks. Essentially, what the actual probabilities mean is that's the chance of seeing a tornado within a 25-mile radius. And so we have 2% in green, 5% in brown, 10 in yellow, and 15 in red. You can see we have two distinct areas of yellows and reds separated within those two moderate risks. So two areas where significant tornadoes is possible. Now, personally, I wouldn't be surprised if this yellow on the southern portion of this 10% risk, I wouldn't be surprised if they extended this a little bit further north, or if they just straight up connected the two. That also wouldn't be all too surprising in my honest opinion as well. You also see these little mesh areas right within here. This is your significant severe risk. So in this instance, we have a significant risk for tornadoes, which means strong tornadoes are possible within those areas as well. Now, we do have a more expansive risk for hail, but it's not as high of a probability. The real area into which there probably could be some hail, let alone heavy to large amounts of hail, could probably be over into the eastern Iowa, northwestern Illinois, southwestern Wisconsin areas over there. So something to watch out for. 2-inch size hail is possible according to that significant severe weather risk. So something to note over there as well. And last but not least, the massive risk for wind that is evident over here across the board, especially in this red area and even a small pink area here, a 45% chance for strong winds within that. But you also see the mesh, which could indicate that some of those localized areas could have hurricane force wind gusts within them as well. Now, I do also want to mention the fact that there could also be some severe weather on Saturday. We have two areas of 1 out of 5s across the board over here in portions of the eastern United States, so watch out for that. And then I do also want to mention out into the future. So on Sunday, there isn't a risk. On Monday, there is not a risk. On Tuesday, however, that 4th, April 4th, there is going to be the potential for some strong to significant severe weather that is possible across what seems to be the same exact area. So something to kind of watch out for as well. We will have a video updating you on that on Saturday, so please be sure to stay tuned to the channel as well. All right, so now we're going to get into all sorts of stuff that people want to see. What makes this event come together? And what can you expect from it? What are the timings and all of that? And so let's first take a look at our jet stream, our 500 millibar wind shear, which is about 6 kilometers above ground level. Now we see here that we have this massive trough that's moving on through. Big time wind shear starts to accelerate, especially at these levels. and we have this massive corridor here of significant winds up above the surface. We're talking 120 knots across the board in this area. Meanwhile, more towards the surface, we do have some energy that is going to be left over from tonight. There's obviously a good bit of energy that is here for tonight's event, and that's the reason why some scattered showers and thunderstorms are definitely possible. But notice how that moisture and that energy continues to linger around, and we see that a lot of that moisture goes all the way up into portions of Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin, which could fuel that portion of the tornado threat up there. And we also still have some lingering moisture over here across our other tornado threat that is down south as well. So something to kind of keep an eye out with that. Now, this is where things are going to get a little interesting, because I'm actually going to split the two different types of the event off into its own little aspect of the video. All right, I'm going to talk about them separately. And I'm going to talk about the northern risk here first, because I think this one can be a little bit interesting depending upon how things shape up. Obviously, that's how every single event works, but this one in particular can be very interesting. We're going to start out by the dew points in our wind barbs, and essentially what wind barbs do is you see that it has a stick, and then it has the little side sticks on the side. So it's like you have a branch of a tree, and then you have the little sticks on the side. Or if you think of it kind of like an arrow, if you put a little tip at the front, boom, that's the direction in which the wind is going towards, all right? So if you kind of think of it that way, we have winds that are moving up to the north, kind of like that. And you also have something that is really interesting here, which is our dew points, but these isobars as well. And what you can actually tell, especially as we move on through from Friday morning into Friday afternoon, we actually have what appears to be a warm front and a shortwave trough that is associated with it. So you see these isobars and how they kind of buckle out on the side just like this, right? This is your warm front right here, which is an area of an enhanced vorticity. And if storms can form on that and even sustain on that, there's a good chance that there probably could be large hail damaging winds and maybe even tornadoes along that as well. But if you move down south, all right, that's normal for the warm front. If you move down south, you can also see that the same exact thing is starting to form right in these areas as well. And you'll see it, especially as we get further and further along to 21Z, 22Z, which is about 4 to 5 p.m. Central. And you see we have a lot of moisture that is starting to get confined within this area. So realistically, northern Missouri into western Illinois, it's going to be really hard for you guys to really get a lot of sustained activity. But once you get more towards the Quad Cities area and then even further into central and northern Illinois, sure, you guys definitely get the opportunity for that. And I want you guys to notice we have a little bit of that buckling here still. It still is there, and it even continues to be a lot more well-defined as you get further and further along. So there is a short wave here. We're talking right here, we're talking right here, we're talking right here within that area. That could be an enhanced area to where storms can form, an area of vorticity that is possible for storms to be able to sustain regardless of if the environment is pretty bad or not. Pair that with our 700 millibar jet, which is about 3 kilometers above ground level. I purposefully chose this because this is more towards the end of where streamwise vorticity could be utilized, and we'll talk about that towards the end of the video here. But you do see that the wind shear starts to become a lot more intense as you go further and further along into the day. I mean, look at how strong that wind shear is within these areas. And I also want you guys to recognize we do have a shortwave right within these areas as well. So double shortwave activity, similar to what we saw on the 24th. If something can ride both of those shortwaves, there's going to be a strong tornado. There probably could be a violent tornado that is possible. It's just got to ride it, and it's also got to not have a whole lot of thunderstorms around it to kind of deter it a little bit. But there is one issue with this event that is kind of glaring. The real issue with this event, essentially, is the fact that there is some dry air evident in the atmosphere. And to show that for you all, we have the relative humidity at 850 millibars, which is about 1 kilometer above ground level. Now, if relative humidity dips below 80%, there is dry air evident in the atmosphere, at least within this portion of the atmosphere. So as we play on through from the afternoon into the evening hours, you see that dry air becomes a lot more evident across the board in some of these areas, meaning that dry air aloft, cold dry air aloft, could come down and force this to be a lot more of a strong damaging wind event, rather than all your levels being relatively saturated and for it to be able to recycle and sustain as more of a long-lived tornado threat. Regardless, here's some of the timings here for you all. You can see that as this moves on through in the early morning hours, we have a lot of scattered showers and thunderstorms with even some snow up in the Great Lakes, or at least the northern Great Lakes. That'll continue to move on through, clear out for the most part in the morning. And then we do have some showers and thunderstorms that could form along the warm front here. So this is potentially your first tornado threat. If storms are able to anchor and are able to at least develop and sustain, you'll probably get a few tornadoes that are possible along that line over there. Move on through and you can see a massive line of storms that start to form over here in central to eastern Iowa. That could potentially be something to watch out for either a strong damaging wind or tornado threat. You can also see a couple of these other storms over here along the warm front as well that could pose the same threat. And then you see some of these other storms that are forming out in front of these storms. These are the stuff that's riding along the shortwave according to the HRRR. And those ones would be the ones that could try to produce your tornadoes. So something to watch out for: northwestern Illinois into extreme eastern Iowa, and maybe even southern Wisconsin as well, and northern Illinois could probably watch out for the threat of something being tornadic. There's also the chance for some severe weather, maybe even the chance for tornadoes that are possible over here in central Illinois into western Indiana. So that could also be something to watch out for heading from the late evening into the overnight hours. So Cliff Note version of that: wind, hail, tornado threat are all possible, but wind and hail could also be its own mode rather than a tornado mode, and it would have to probably be either one or the two. So something to watch out for that. But we're going to move down to the Tennessee Valley here, and we're going to show you guys what we could potentially see with our dew points, our wind barbs, and our isobars. So let's play this on through. We can see in the afternoon we have our dry line set up in the back. This also is its own long wave trough, so something to kind of note. You can see how far it extends actually. But I want you guys to take a look at those kinks that we usually look for within the line as well. Look at this. We've got some bends over here within this, which could indicate that we do have another shortwave that's out in front of the main dry line. And indeed, that is exactly the case. We take a look at 23Z to 0Z. That would be around 6 to 7 p.m. Central. You can see that is indeed evident over here according to the HRRR. And if this forms, my goodness, there's a good chance for there to be a strong tornado right along the line. Your directional shear is pretty good. Your moisture is pretty good. Up along the short wave, there's a lot of vorticity, of course. Anything that can form along that probably will sustain. So something to kind of watch out for as that moves through into the Mississippi-Ohio River Delta. Aided by the fact that the 700 millibar wind shear is actually stronger down here than it is over there near the triple point and the low pressure system. I mean, look at this here, guys. Significant winds in upwards of 90 knots to even potentially 95 knots in some spots. That is some very strong 700 millibar wind shear across the board. And look at this. You can even see the shortwave right within there as well. This is definitely, once again, another instances of a double shortwave. That's a lot of vorticity that storms are going to be able to ride. So just something to watch out for. It's the same thing as it was up north. If anything can ride it, it'll be able to try and produce it. Now, such as any other severe weather event, there's always got to be some sort of fail mode. And besides the fact that storms could potentially not even form on some of those short waves, we also have a lot of relative humidity at the surface. And if you have a lot of that, storms typically form at the surface and start to expand. But if there are too many storms that form with a lot of moisture, those can actually kind of cut off each other, kill off each other and stuff like that, and even start to merge and kind of prolong eventual sustainability with some of these storms. So something to kind of note, we do have a lot of relative humidity at the surface, a lot of moisture, and it doesn't really seem to go away throughout a lot of this area. Regardless, we do have a lot of showers and thunderstorms that do form. We have stuff along this major line over here extending from St. Louis down to Little Rock, but we also have some other showers and thunderstorms that try to form out in front of it, so potentially two waves that are possible. Realistically, this line right here is going to be the one that I am going to watch out for the most. If you were to ask me where the best chance for a tornado is going to be, it's going to be somewhere along this line. I would say somewhere here near the delta of the Ohio River and the Mississippi River. There's just, the wind shear is so good over there. The veering is so good over there that if some storm does form, oh boy, it's going to take advantage of all of that vorticity. And to further quantify that vorticity, I want to show you guys the storm relative helicity just to kind of finish up the video. And you're going to see that as we go from Friday morning into Friday afternoon, look at how the helicity starts to really ramp up across the board, especially in the main area of that southern moderate risk compared to the stuff that is up there in Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin. So clearly there's some substantial wind shear down here in all of these areas, I might add, and the threat for significant tornadoes and strong damaging winds is definitely possible across this event. So with that being said, we have a lot on our plate tomorrow. We're going to be live all the way throughout, and we're going to make sure that everyone who lives in these areas gets the information they may need so that they may be able to be safe. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new, and turn on notifications. Share this with as many people as you possibly can. That way more people may be able to be informed about this impending severe weather event. If you have any questions about this event, please be sure to ask me down below or ask me on Discord and Twitter. Stay safe, everyone, and I will catch you guys for tomorrow's live stream. So peace out.